If there's one thing I'm an absolute master at, is discovering things way later than I should, and then pretending like I knew about it all along, thus trying to trick people into think I'm very smart. The current installation of that trick is going to be this chord right here, which really is like one chord to make you a better guitar player. If you know this chord right here, you know what you're doing, all right? This specific one is a G major 7 sharp 11. Some people may call it a G major 7 flat 5. We'll talk about that, but there's a lot that you can learn with just this one chord, and we're going to talk about it today. In case you missed it, last week I posted a video of me and my friend Farron performing a song called Red Room by Hiatus Kaiyote. It sounds kind of like this. It's so tasty. I got a red room, it is a red hour when the sun sets in my bedroom, and it feels like I'm inside a flower. It sounds way better when Farron sings it. I'll link you to it if you guys want to check that out. But really learning that song, and anything by Hiatus Kaiyote, incredible band, really introduced me to this chord, and I was like, why have I never played this chord? Why is it so awesome? G major 7 sharp 11. And I'm playing it on the carbon fiber Enya X4. The reason I'm playing it on this guitar is, one, this video is sponsored by Enya, and two, because this is the new 4 chord for anybody's arrangement. So you're gonna learn a lot about, right? Carbon fiber X4. We'll talk more about that later, but let's learn the chord real quick. So we have the root note, middle finger, 3rd fret on the low E string. We're gonna play the 4th fret on the D and G strings using my ring finger and my pinky right there. So right there, this gives you the beginnings of a G major 7. We have a G note, it's major 7th, and then it's major 3rd, okay? This is a B, so a G, an F sharp, and a B. Now usually, one of my favorite chord voicings ever is G major 7, like this. And again, the beautiful thing about this is you can play this in any key, right? You can move this around. G major 7, G sharp major 7, A major 7, B flat major 7, so on and so forth, right? What I've never done, or again, my middle finger's on the D string 3rd fret there, to grab the 5th of the chord, is swap the root note here and then go, you can think of this as a flat 5, all right? So instead of a D, we have a C sharp, G, F sharp, B, C sharp. So good, especially going to a B minor, right? B minor, C sharp minor 7, flat 5, G, major 7, sharp 11, okay? Now, I've seen this listed as both ways, major 7, sharp 11, and major 7, flat 5. The reason that I'm leaning into the sharp 11 of it is as follows. There's something very special about the 4 chord in any key, right? So what I mean by that is we're actually in the key of D major, all right? The key of 2022. So if we look at these notes, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. Okay, so we have a couple sharps, 2 sharps. Now, D major 7, very pretty, is the 1 chord. The 4 chord is my favorite chord in any key. I've talked about the 4 chord all the time. If you've ever seen any of my videos, Lord knows I've played a 4 chord as a major 7. But I've never played it like this. So this 1 chord combines the 2 best things about the 4th note in any key. Some would call this the Lydian Mode, all right? So number 1 is it's a major 7 chord, which is really beautiful, but it's not the 1 chord, so it doesn't resolve like a D major does, right? By the way, it sounds so good. This guitar actually has built-in reverb, so I'm going through an amp, but the reverb on the amp is off. That's why, again, best carbon fiber guitar in its price point, without a doubt. Thank you, Enya Guitars. But you got that beautiful 4 chord major 7 sound, but the sound of Lydian is having a sharp 4. What that means is if we look at the notes in the key of D, starting on a G, we get a G, an A, a B, a C sharp. That's what makes it special. D, E, F sharp, G, right? Here's the difference between G major and G Lydian. Right? So you've heard a lot of video game music use the Lydian Mode. Legend of Zelda is like a great example of something that really leans. Right? right? That's the sound of Lydian getting that sharp 4. It's not a flat 5, it's a sharp 4, because we still have the 5 in there. We can still make a G major chord, but we have this note available to us, which is special. There's no other major mode in a key. There's no other major chord that has that dissonance of an interval. So when we put that on top, right there, we get like the best of both worlds. It's like the beautiful part about major 7 is the 4 chord, but also the dissonance that strikes on that scale degree, what makes it special. That's C sharp in this key. And again, like I said, this is movable. This is the G major 7, sharp 11, so on and so forth. You can kind of move it all over the place. That sounds wild, just moving it like that, right? Well, let's get back to like where you would use this, all right? Now, if you go right to here, from the 1 chord, it doesn't sound bad, but like, it doesn't really have that same effect. If you start on the relative minor, right, B minor, and again in that Hiatus Kaiyote song is actually the relative minor, the 7 chord, and then that tasty 4 chord right there. Then you get what I consider is more of like a great vibe, because what you're doing is you're taking a B minor, right, the relative minor. If you actually lift your middle finger up and get 2A, 4D, 4G, 2B, that's most of the battle right there. That's like a B suspended chord, right? So I really love the sound of suspended chords, and I love the sound of major 7 chords. So this is really kind of like 2 of them in 1, right? So think of this as a potential option that you have anytime you're using the 4 chord in a key. Let's change keys just to kind of use it as a different example, right? Let's go to what's actually probably my favorite key is the key of F major, right? If you've listened to my original music, you know it's all in D minor, right? So wherever you have that relative minor, you can very easily make this chord by just taking your middle finger, moving it to the root, and putting your pointer finger and moving it down to the B string. Okay? And now this is my new 4 chord that I'm kind of using. My tasty 4 chord. We'll call this the tasty 4, the tasty X4. We could just call this the X4 in honor of Enya sponsoring this video with their amazing carbon fiber guitar, right? So right there, that's such an easy way to think about it, because my fingers are already all on the right frets from playing an A string rooted minor chord. I just have to move them to different frets or different strings, right? So my middle finger just jumps to the E string, pointer finger down to the B string, right there. And then even just like a really easy transition from the 6 chord to the 4 chord. Now I'm doing it in, you know, the key of E. Again, I think it's really just good for your muscle memory to be able to jump back and forth between that, okay? I do want to talk a little bit about chord naming, as long as we're on the subject, right? It's like, well, why is it an 11 and not a 5? Something like that, right? Well, the interesting thing about that is the way that chords are built, they're built stacking thirds, right? So if you were to make a G major chord, you'd start with a G, then you'd skip a note, so you'd skip in the key of G, you'd skip an A, and then you go to B, right? B is the major third of that chord. Then to continue building that note, we'd take the next note, skip it, C, add the 5th, right? So we're building it in thirds. You take a note in the scale and you skip it, right? So building it in thirds, you have a G, a B, and a D. To make the major 7, we'll skip the E, get to the F sharp, right? So that's our next third that we've stacked on top of that, and that gives us a G major 7. All right, and then we can kind of keep going on and on. Now, you can't build them out of order. So when it says G major 7 flat 5, this could technically be correct, because when we have this major 7 chord voicing, I've got the root note. Even though I'm playing the notes in an interval that is out of order, I'm going the root note, and then the 7th, the major 7th. I'm still building it through those chords. If I were to spell this chord, it'd be a 1, 3, 5, 7. In the key of G. Even if everything's out of order, if my 3 is here, and my 5 is here, and my 7 is here, and my 1, that can be out of order, but those notes have to exist for it to be a G major 7 chord, right? So here's my 1, here's my 7, here's my 3, and here's my 5, okay? So as soon as I lose the 5, you could be like, all right, well, I'm just taking a G major 7 and flattening the 5, which is kind of right, but I do think contextually, if we're thinking about the 4 chord does not have a flat 5 in it. It has a sharp 4. And this can be very confusing for people when they're learning music theory, because like, what does it matter if it's a flat 5 or a sharp 4? It's a C sharp. It's the exact same note. It doesn't matter how I perceive this note as being sharp 5 or flat 4. It's just a C sharp, right? Well, that is true, but I do think that the spirit of this chord is implying the 5th, which is something that we do in guitar all the time, right? For example, if we were to play a G7, right? G dominant 7, I've got my 1, I've got my major 3rd, my dominant 7, my minor 7, and then another 3. I don't have a 5 in this chord, but, you know, I'm implying it. The 5 exists with the 1 because they're so connected. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's why I don't see it as a flat 5. I see it as the chord has been built because I'm using it as the 4 chord in this key, right? So its function right there is to be my major 7th chord. And then past the octave, right? G. I can go through the whole scale and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. C would be the 11th. A sharp 11 would be C sharp, which proves we're in the key of D, like I said before. So, that's why I see this as a G major 7 sharp 11 instead of a flat 5. And there's no such thing as like a flat 12 or whatever. Once you get past the initial triad being built, that's why it's usually not like a G major 7 add 4, because that 4 kind of exists between, like, under the 5th, or going on top of it. That's why it's an extension. Plus, again, this is so much higher here. That relationship, I'm just getting sharp 11 vibes. What about you? Let me know in the comments what you think. But I would challenge you to get this chord in your repertoire because it's so easy to switch between major 7 and then the sharp 11 there, right? And it leads you places. Right? Maybe I'm just kind of doing this melodic D, C sharp, B run. Right? There's like a lot of cool stuff that we can do with that. Alright? But again, think of it as just the 4 chord. We could do this in everybody's favorite key, the key of C, right? Like, you know, we can do the same thing here, where it's like we take the A minor way up here, and then switch it all the way here. Or, you know, you kind of do this thing where it's like, right there, like an F. That's probably the easiest version. Having that B on top of an F. Super cool, right? So that could be something that you incorporate in the key of C, right? C major, D minor, E minor, F, G, A, B, C. There's a lot of utility to that, so I think everybody should learn it. And again, thank you so much to Enya Guitars. This thing is really cool. You can charge it with USB here, and again, like I said, there's like effects built into it. That's all the reverb this is. There's also chorus effect. Delay. That sounds so good. So yeah, check out the link in the description because, again, I'm a fan of these guitars. I've used a lot of them over the years. So let me know what you think. If you have any questions or comments, hit me in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.